Banking Law and Practice. Chapter 4, Negotiable Instruments. Part 2 of 3. Dishonor of checks, meaning. Dishonor means the non-payment of a check when it is presented at the counter or through a clearing account. It applies to both open and cross checks. The word dishonor comes from dis, not, and honor, payment/respect. Together, it means the bank refuses to pay the amount written on the check. When a check is dishonored, the payee or holder loses the expected payment. The banker either returns the check unpaid or refuses to process it for a specific reason. Example: Ravi holds a check from Meera. He presents it at the bank. The banker returns it with the remark, "Refer to drawer." This is dishonor of the check. Circumstances when banker must dishonor. Countermand by customer. The drawer issues a stop payment instruction before the check is presented. The banker must refuse payment immediately. Death of customer. When the banker receives notice of the account holder's death, all checks drawn by them must be stopped right away. Insolvency of customer. If a court declares the customer insolvent, the banker must not honor any checks drawn on that account. Lunacy of customer. If the banker is notified through proper notice that the customer is mentally unsound, check payments must be refused. Garnishee order. When a court attaches the customer's account through a garnishee order, the banker cannot make any payments from that account. Forged check. If the banker has reason to believe the check is forged or the title is defective, payment must be refused to protect the real owner. Circumstances when banker my dishonor. Insufficient funds. If the account balance is less than the check amount, the banker may refuse to honor the check. Signature mismatch. If the drawer's signature on the check does not match the specimen held by the bank, payment may be refused. Stale or postdated. A check older than 3 months, stale, or presented before its written date, postdated, may be returned without payment. After banking hours. A check presented outside the official banking hours may be refused at the discretion of the banker. Words and figures differ. If the amount in words does not match the amount in figures on the check, the banker may refuse to honor it. Mutilated check. A torn or badly damaged check not confirmed by the drawer may be refused for payment by the banker. Causes of dishonor, coded answers. Refer to drawer, RD, used when funds are insufficient or a garnishee order is in place. The payee is asked to directly contact the drawer. Effect not cleared, ENC, used when a previously deposited check has not been cleared yet and the funds are not yet available in the account. Not sufficient, NS, means the account balance is too low to cover the check. Must be used carefully. Wrong use can lead to a defamation claim. Endorsement irregular, EI, the check lacks proper endorsement. Paying it would cause the banker to lose their statutory protection under the NI Act. No account, NA, the drawer does not hold an account with the bank. The check may be fake or fraudulently obtained. Words and figures differ, WFD. The amount written in words and the amount in figures do not match each other on the face of the check. Wrongful dishonor. Definition: wrongful dishonor occurs when a banker refuses to pay a valid check without any legal or valid reason. Liability to customer. A banker who wrongfully dishonors a check must pay damages to the customer for any resulting loss of reputation or business. Trader versus non-trader. Damages are higher for a trader customer as dishonor affects their business credit. A non-trader customer receives nominal damages. Defamatory words. Using words like not sufficient without valid reason can amount to libel. The banker may be sued for defaming the customer. Holder cannot sue bank. Only the drawer can sue the banker for wrongful dishonor. The holder has no direct contract with the bank and cannot sue. Marking of check, meaning. Marking of a check is a process where the paying banker certifies that a check is good for payment. The banker puts their initials or writes approved or marked good for payment on the check. The word marking refers to putting a mark of approval on the check. It is the banker's informal assurance that the check will be honored when presented for payment. Marking is done when the payee doubts whether the check will be honored or is unsure of the drawer's financial position. The banker is not legally required to mark a check, it is only a convention. Example: Suresh, the payee of a check, approaches the banker before depositing it. The banker writes approved and initials the check. This is called marking of a check. Effects of marking. Proof of good faith. Marking confirms that the drawer issued the check honestly and not with any intention to defraud the payee. Sufficient funds available. It certifies that adequate funds exist in the drawer's account at the time the marking is done to meet the check value. Adds to drawer's credit. Marking improves the credibility of the drawer in the eyes of the payee and gives confidence to third parties as well. Additional currency. Marking gives the check extra validity and acceptance, making it more trustworthy for use in further transactions. Marking versus acceptance. Instrument type. Marking applies only to checks. Acceptance applies to bills of exchange. The two concepts belong to different instruments. Legal recognition. Marking has no legal recognition in India. It is a banking convention only. Acceptance of a bill is legally required and binding. Necessity. Marking is not needed for payment. The banker has an existing contract to honor checks. Acceptance is needed to give a bill legal validity. Obligation created. Marking for a drawer creates constructive payment and earmarks funds. Acceptance of a bill creates direct liability on the acceptor, drawee. Effect of refusal. Refusal to mark does not amount to dishonor of the check. But refusal to accept a bill of exchange means the bill is dishonored. Legal aspects of marking. 3 scenarios. Marking for drawer, done at the drawer's request. Counts as constructive payment, funds are earmarked and the drawer cannot countermand the check. Marking for payee/holder, done at the payee's request. Only confirms sufficient funds at that moment. No funds are earmarked and the check can still be dishonored later. Marking for collecting banker, done after clearing hours at the request of the collecting banker. Funds are earmarked. The drawer cannot countermand the payment. Postdated check exception. Marking a postdated check has no legal consequence. The drawer can still stop payment before the date written on the check arrives. Current practice. Under an interbank agreement, the practice of marking has largely stopped. Banks now issue their own pay orders or checks instead. Material alteration. Meaning. Material alteration means changing the content of a check in a way that alters its legal character and affects the rights and liabilities of all parties involved in the instrument. The word material means important or significant. An alteration is material only if it changes the legal or business effect of the instrument in a major and noticeable way. A materially altered check becomes void and cannot be used for payment. However, if the drawer confirms the alteration with their full signature, the check can become valid again. Example: someone changes the date on a check from April 1st to June 1st without the drawer's full signature. This is a material alteration that makes the check legally invalid. What is material alteration? Date of the check. Changing the date alters when payment becomes due. This directly affects the validity period of the check. Amount payable. Altering the sum in words or figures changes the payment obligation and is a direct material alteration. Place of payment. Changing the location where the check is payable alters the legal terms of the instrument. Name of payee. Substituting or modifying the name of the person to be paid changes a core party of the check. Order to bearer. Converting an order check to a bearer check changes the mode of transfer and reduces the security level. Special to general crossing. Downgrading a specially crossed check to a general crossing reduces protection and alters the instrument's legal nature. What is not material alteration? Bearer to order. Converting a bearer check into an order check increases security. It is a permitted change and not a material alteration. Open to crossed. Making an open check a cross check adds protection to the instrument. This is allowed and does not affect its legal character. General to special crossing. Converting a general crossing into a special crossing adds more protection. This is permitted and is not a material alteration. Adding not negotiable /AC payee. Adding these protective words does not change the basic nature of the check. It is not considered a material alteration. Check versus bill of exchange. Key differences. Stamp duty. A check is exempted from stamp duty. A bill of exchange attracts stamp duty under the Indian Stamp Act, 1899. Acceptance. A check does not require the drawee's acceptance before payment. A bill of exchange must be accepted by the drawee first. Drawee in a check. The drawee is always a bank. In a bill of exchange, the drawee can be any person, including a banker. Days of grace. A check is payable on demand with no grace period. A bill of exchange allows 3 extra days of grace for payment. Countermand. Payment of a check can be stopped by the drawer. Payment of a bill of exchange cannot be countermanded once accepted. Statutory protection. A check gets protection under Sections 85 and 131 of the NI Act. A bill of exchange has no such statutory protection. Bank draft and bank pay order. Bank draft (DD) meaning a bank draft is a payment instrument issued by a bank on behalf of the payer. The bank collects the amount first, then issues the draft. Why DD is safer? Since the bank guarantees the payment, a DD cannot be dishonored for insufficient funds. It gives full security to the payee. DD after NEFT/ARTGS. With NEFT and ARTGS, demand drafts have become less common. Digital methods transfer funds faster and at a much lower cost. Bank pay order, meaning a bank pay order is an instrument the bank issues instructing itself to pay a certain amount to a third party in the same city. Pay order features. A pay order is a non-negotiable instrument valid for 3 months. Since it is prepaid by the bank, it cannot be dishonored. That's a wrap on Part 2. Continue to Part 3-4. Endorsement of checks. Books next up. Chapter 5, Skill Development. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, share with your classmates.